guys, Eric Woolridge. I go by Coach Eric. I am here with Coach Allen.
Awesome. Hey, Eric, thanks for having us.
Really excited to be able to talk volleyball for a little bit. So thank you for your time. I'm very appreciative of that. And I know our viewers are all ears here. So I'm going to start off with the first question. What do you look for in a recruit on and off the court?
Yeah, for us, we try to put guys into some categories that we're looking for, right? In the sense of the common one, that's the skill set, right? Looking for some size, passing platform, jumping ability, good arm, real good touch as a setter, whatever it might be. Something, obviously, there has to be an eye-catching skill set. But in reality, we're also looking for the right mindset for our program. And every program is going to be different on what they're looking for. We're looking for guys that want to come in here and commit to getting better on a daily basis, getting better on a weekly, monthly, annual basis, looking to hopefully do something volleyball related post Long Beach State. The Olympic team, going overseas and playing volleyball, playing on the AVP. Hopefully it just doesn't end as they complete their degree. We find that combination is going to fit really nicely with the goals of a lot of the guys that are in our program. The other one is that coming to one of the top programs is going to be a difficult adjustment for any young man. And coming in with a mindset that it's probably not going to be easy. In fact, it's probably going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And statistically speaking, most of the freshmen don't start. But all of the freshmen were the best guys on their high school team, all the best on their club team. So how are they going to handle that? Doesn't mean we want them to accept it, because we do have freshmen that start. We've had freshmen of the year and all sorts of guys. We have 3 freshmen that start this year. However, over my time here, 22 plus years as the head coach, by and large, most of the freshmen don't start. So how are they going to handle that while they're searching for their role, looking for their role, working towards their role, but also being good in the role that they currently have within the program? Maybe there are third or fourth outside hitter, maybe there are serving sub, maybe there are blocking sub, whatever they might be. And you need to find the right mindset type, the kid with a growth mindset. At the same time, you want to have a balance of someone who's highly competitive. The other one is that we're looking for kids or young men, I should say, that are looking to expect greatness in all areas of their life, not just volleyball. We had 21 of our guys last semester were academic all-stars. So we're looking to balance that. Well, that's a 3.0 or above. There was 7 4.0s. They want something great in every part of their life, and they want to come here and they want to become a better person so they can be a great dad, a great employee, a great business owner, a great husband, whatever it might be. However, the way we're going to look into that is, what do we hear from their high school coaches, the club coaches? What is the conversation like with the parents? How do they value the relationships in their lives? How do they interact with their club director, their club coach? Do they switch clubs every year? Do they switch clubs every time they don't start? These are things that are not necessarily what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who wants to commit. We're totally going to commit into these student athletes, and we would like it to be a mutual relationship. So learning a lot about the parents, learning about the family, the siblings, learning their track record on top of the skill sets. And then what are they willing to do outside of just volleyball? What are they doing to watch video? What are they doing to become a higher volleyball IQ guy? What are they doing in the weight room? How are they taking care of their body? What are some of the things they like to do outside of volleyball? So, you don't have to be volleyball 24 hours. People need releases. It might be, hey, I like to golf. I like to fish. I like to play video games. It doesn't really matter what it is, but those things can't be more important than school, their family, and volleyball when they're here. So if it's a guy that likes to play video games, but he can't turn off the video game till 3 a.m., that's not going to be great for getting to an 8 a.m. class. So right. These are the type of things we talk about, and we realize that we're in a fortunate situation that we get to talk to some very high-level athletes, and they have some good choices. So we know that the type of kid that we're going to get is going to be talented, and we're splitting hairs, really, to be honest with you, between outside hitter A and outside hitter B that we're going to recruit. But these other factors besides their volleyball skill is going to hedge our bet in the right direction, that they're going to fit in well in the way we do business here at Long Beach State.
So I think that takes us to the next question, the culture in the gym. How would you describe that on a daily expectation for someone coming into the Long Beach State volleyball program?
Yeah, it's a very highly intentful culture is that we've tried to build over many years. What I mean by that is that everybody, when they are around an organization or a business or even a classroom, it doesn't really matter what it is, a group of people that are going to be together trying to do something, work towards some goals. You can tell just by sitting in the gym of a team or in a business conference room or in a building, doesn't matter what it is, if this is a good culture or if this is a toxic culture. You don't really know why. A lot of times you just know you're feeling it. Like, hey man, this is pretty tight. This is dialed. These people get along. They're all on the same page. Hey, this one's not. And I think one of the things that I'm very proud of the program is the fact that we've really spent a lot of time putting together what we think is a very good way to create a culture. It's been very successful for us to make sure that we never fall into the idea that culture is by default for us. It just happens to be whatever that team turns into being. And it has to be by preparation and design. So we have to talk about how we would like to communicate, how we'd like to goal set, how we'd like job descriptions and commitments and vision statements, and how we would like to put this year together that we're going to commit to, and hopefully more than just a year, and have some. They don't have to be hard set necessarily rules where they feel like they can't have any creativity whatsoever, but we want to have good guardrails of what we're trying, the standards that we're trying to live up to. That comes from someone's got to state those. You have to start it from somewhere, right? And a culture starts with obviously great communication. And everyone will say some of the buzzwords out there of we have to have accountability. We want trust. Well, trust, that's a big statement to say we want to have trust, right? In any relationship, whether it's a personal one or a team one, trust is like a bank account. You're making deposits or you're making withdrawals. You're not staying the same. So how many deposits can you make so that when you go to the bank, there's plenty of money in there? And instead of constantly making withdrawals against the team, you're late, you're emotionally, you don't like your role, so you're trying to bring people down with you. You don't take care of your body, you don't get good sleep, whatever it might be, and over time you're breaking trust in. So we talk about trust and accountability and trying to have great communication, and all of these things are going to lead us to the results we get at the end if we can build some good trust individually and collectively as a team. So I think that if you came into our program and you just sat in the pyramid seats and you watched us train, what we hear is that you can just feel the culture. You can see it when we play in matches. You can see when we play in games. But I think the best is to come watch us in practice. So that's what I would say about the culture. It's very highly intentful and definitely by design.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing how to get recruits. I'm hearing about the culture in the gym. So how do you and your staff develop the players when they come in the gym technically, mentally, and academically?
Well, first of all, I'll kind of go in reverse order. Academically, we have an amazing support center here for the academic side of things, and it's called the Bickerstaff Student Center and Student Athlete Center. And they're so good about the way they prep the guys, talk to the guys, help them with class selections or majors or getting into their master's program, making sure that their schedule fits around our practices, but at the same time picking the right classes in the right semester so you don't have too many chemistry labs. If they're struggling in any way, study groups and mentors, and they do such a good job. So we have a liaison, McKay Smith, from my staff who connects with the guys all the time, because I'm a big believer in small, fast, brief contacts, lots of them over a long period of time instead of long, lengthy meetings where they feel like lectures to the kids. So McKay's that guy, and he stays in between Sandra, who is in our counseling office, and it's a cohesive situation. We have student athlete grade checks with the faculty, so we know how they're doing over time, and just a lot of safety nets to catch them if especially that freshman is away from home, maybe is procrastinating a little bit in that first semester. We can catch that before it turns into a problem. When it talks about more on the volleyball side, I just think that it's a little bit kind of the same philosophy, and that is we don't want to bring a kid in and break everything down and retool everything. There's a reason why we recruited a kid. So how can we highlight the things that he's really, really good at and we liked when we saw him, and build up those things? At the same time, how can we critique what he's doing, maybe challenge him to be better in some areas, and give him some really good feedback and some goals of what he could be better at. Show him some visuals of someone already doing it, whether it's international, collegiately. Give him something visually to see. Give him reps in the gym. Get him the feedback. Videotape them. Critique that with him. Watch it with him briefly, and then go back and give more reps. And I think that approach individually, because we have the same, of course, type approach on systems as well for our whole team, but this, we're just talking individuals right now. I think then they start to build not only their volleyball IQ, but also in the language, the way we speak in our gym. So that's super consistent from when we're watching video in the office to when we're training individually to when we're training in the gym to when we're in 6-on-6 or we're talking about a scouting report or even in a match communication. We're talking in a language that's Long Beach State Volleyball's language. And those are brief bullets that mean teaching, philosophies or systems, and be very consistent with that so that we don't end up having to have lots of long conversations in practice and games, trying to get points across that are said differently every day from different coaches. Because in the match, when we get, we have that wonderful season that in the spring of the NCAA where we have all fall to ramp up into our season. So we have this wonderful time to really prep for our year. And we don't want to have all that time and then get in a game and not be able to be very efficient with the way we communicate, whether it be in match signals, hand signals, timeouts, whatever. All of it gets condensed down towards that game communication. And so we have to start somewhere. So that's kind of how we go about the business, about how we prep for them individually and collectively. And it's a game of failure. You're going to have to try it. You're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to train ugly sometimes. You're going to have to do all sorts of things. But ultimately, you're going to have faith that the people that are trying to help you and sometimes even change some of the things you have, they have very good intentions and have your back. And then understanding the importance of the trust that you have from these young student athletes, that if you are going to ask them to do something and you are asking them to change and go through that uncomfortable phase, then you have their trust, obviously, and it's super valuable. So you can't break that. You have to be super consistent with it and hopefully not super emotional with it. And most importantly, you have to be able to explain your why. Why is it that you would like them to do this? Not just because that's the way the coach you played for told you to do it, but is it biomechanically better, technically better? What is it that you're trying to change and why? And then hopefully you can give them some good examples too, some guys that are already doing this. And then you get some buy-in. And when you get buy-in, you're going to see some results. And when you see some results, that's our job, to keep watering the green spots, get them moving in the right direction. And I think we take that approach individually, and we definitely take that approach collectively with how we try to build throughout the course of the year.
What sets Long Beach apart from the other top volleyball programs in terms of systems, training, conversation, blocking systems, and medium systems?
Well, it's hard for me to say what separates us because obviously I don't spend a lot of time in other colleges' gyms, but I can tell you what we try to be. And, the game has changed so much throughout my lifetime. The game that I watched as a kid that hooked me is not even close to the game that I coach today. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The scoring system's not the same. The game's not played the same. The rules are different. There's a lot of difference to it. But I think as the game continues to evolve, and we're these wonderful athletes on both the men's and women's side playing our sport, I think that we've tried really, really hard to not coach from a position of what you can't do and not allowed to do, and box them into a whole bunch of rules that there's tape on the floor where they're supposed to stand. There's any situation that happens on their side that doesn't matter. You have only one blocking move to make, or you only can block line, or you can only block cross court, or whatever it might be, right? All these things that all they hear in their mind is no, no, no. And then the coach at the end says, all right, let's go. That's not what we're looking for. So what we're looking for is, what is the best way to biomechanically do something on the court, just to move. What is the best use of our athleticism on the court? And what are the best ways to teach the game so the players can read the game and read the situations, perform a task or a technique to counter that. By doing so, then you have to break the game down into how it's really played right now. And that is, when I was younger as a player and as a young head coach, everything was 75% of what you did in practice every day, if you're working on your offense, was on first ball, perfect pass offense. And then there was 25, roughly, maybe 30% out of system, bad pass. And bad pass was from, I don't know, 7, 8 feet off the net, extended into area 4, extended into area 1. And everything at that point slowed down and was high and very conservative. And just give the attacker all the range in the world and don't take any risk from the set. It was fine, whatever, that's fine. But the game wasn't nearly as physical. And a lot of the serves back then, most of the teams had some sort of ratio of like 4 float serve guys and 2 jump serves or whatever it might be. It wasn't as physical and as aggressive as it is now from the end line. So that being said, I believe today that, and this has been for years now, a big push in our gym, is that in between that out of system, and hopefully out of system isn't in such a small diameter anymore that it's just a few feet off the net. Hopefully it's a lot further off the net to become high ball now. But that in between that and perfect pass is medium system. So medium system from 6, 8 feet off the net to about 12 feet off the net, and then extending into area 4 and area 3. How can you not lose attackers, right? Because the whole game is set up of, if I have more blockers than you have attackers, advantage me. So if I can get you to pull the ball off the net and you only have 2 attackers, or maybe even 1 attacker, and I can get my 3 blockers or at least 2 blockers in front of you, over time, that's a good situation for me. Obviously, the inverse of that is you pass the ball perfectly and you have 4 attackers at my 3 blockers. That's good for you. And that's obviously that's the push and pull part of the game. How can you not give in so black and white to it? It's either we have all 4 or we have 2. How can you keep that longer? And that's the medium system. So setting balls to the outside that are not high balls, but maybe they're not, everyone's terminology is different, but not a shoot.
Right.
But still have some range and still stress the block. Well, you're not going to do that if you can't hold the blockers in the middle of the court also with some quick attack, even though it's not perfect at the net, and not losing your BIC. So having this philosophy that we're never going to lose our area 6 attacker, regardless of where the pass is, we're going to have some sort of ability to set the quick, even from imperfect situations or the, quote unquote medium system. So spending a lot of time in that offensively also forces you to spend a lot of time in that block and defense, because medium system, like I said, is also extended along the net when the setter is getting pushed forward to zone 4 or backing up to zone 2. For years, as they moved towards an antenna into 4, the ball got higher and slower to give the attacker more time. The same as you backed up. And obviously that's not today's international volleyball. That's not today's collegiate volleyball. It's not even today's boys high level 18, 16, 17s. That's becoming the same half speed. Back up, short distance, a very fast set to the pin, try to have a quick attack. So that's still an emphasis. So area 8 on a volumetrics codes is kind of that middle of the court that we were talking about, 6 to 8 feet off the net and to 12 feet off the net, zone 4, zone 2. Those 3 zones, how can you not lose any of your attackers? So training that on both sides, if you're gonna train it offensively, then you're also going to get better at it when other teams that have that in a block and defense. So I really think that we spend a lot of time in that. We spend a lot of time with our serving and our passing, and then we break those down to what it means to block a quote unquote in system, medium system, and out of system, and what our reads are to tell us that we're in those systems. What it does for your blockers is it gives them the feeling of some empowerment that they do have some tools in their toolbox to stop a team that's passing the ball well. And especially if they're setting with tempo offense, fast tempo offense to the outside, and they're setting BIC, instead of just the only answer is hit your serve harder and it doesn't matter if you miss. and which in a lot of ways is a philosophy. If a team is siding out so well in the men's game with so many attackers and guys flying out of the back row and 6-7 outside hitters and 6-11 middles, and it's hard to stop. So it becomes, I got to be more and more physical from the end line, which there is a lot of truth to that. But what happens if the team is still passing the ball fairly well? At what point is there a comfort level of we have to be able to stop them some way? So is it tactically serving and an in-system blocking, or is it just I'm going to hit my serve and risk missing 50% of them? So those are some of the things that I know we've talked about in the past of just teaching that part of the game a little bit more, teaching the understanding that there's more to it than just it's a good pass or it's a bad pass. And what great thing is I go to whether it be AAUs or JOs or junior college volleyball around California or watching college volleyball, and the game has evolved so far, especially in the last 8 to 10 years at all these levels. You're going and watching 15s, 14s or whatever, and they're hitting bics and they're doing all sorts of stuff that 20 years ago, colleges weren't even running. So the game is evolving, and that's the fun part that I like to be part of, is just teaching those things with some cues of how to be successful at it. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, you see the product that maybe Long Beach is running or the national team running, whatever you're watching, and you take it to your gym and you try to apply it. And you're only trying to apply it from what you saw the end result. You don't really know the why and the pieces. What's the recipe to building this offense? And there could be lots of different recipes. There's a lot of different cookies out there, right? The one that you want to get to needs to have one that can't be vague. It needs to have some rules that you train with every single day. And I found that very, very enjoyable with the camps and clinics that I do, of really breaking that down, listening to what coaches are doing in their own gym, sharing with what we're doing. And usually out of that comes a pretty good product.
Love it. That's awesome. My mind's just flying. All right. So last question. Can you share a moment over the last couple decades, it sounds like, being a part of the Long Beach State team is really all about?
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know, I think I tend to lean towards, like, as a coach, it's really enjoyable to win at the highest level and do it where it's not super stressful. That's very comforting, right? What I've really learned, though, is that almost never happens. Like there's lots of adversity along the way, whether it be with lineups or guys that are switching positions or injuries or things that you don't have a lot of control over. Because of that, it's not always comfortable. So I've kind of gravitated this spot in my mind when I think of like moments in time. What do I respect the most, or what sticks with me the most are moments that aren't maybe going great and it's not easy, but a team stays together and finds a way anyway to get the job done. They win. Maybe they lean a little bit more on their serving, their blocking, their offense, medium system, whatever it might be, but they don't give in and they stick together and they lean on their systems and their training in those moments instead of fracture. That's the things that I'm probably most proud of. And I could give you, a list of different things that pop out, different teams that I've coached, but I think we'd be here all night. Those are the moments that you're down in a match, you're down 0-2, your backs are against the wall, and you have a choice to fracture or you have a choice to rally. And I think there's a good track record by our guys of some really good moments that we didn't need that, but also a fair amount of moments that when faced with some serious adversity, choosing to stay together. And the reason why I think that's so important to me is from the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about culture. And part of that is the power of the unit. My brother's right now for United Airlines, but before that, he was a Marine pilot. And talking to him, and he doesn't give you a whole lot of it, but like some of this I believe in, and the power of the unit comes from military training. So it is a good to have with them. And we use this example all the time, is that of why does an 18, 19-year-old man become so brave in battle and go out and maybe even be willing to take someone else's life, which is not something I say lightly. I don't mean that that's a proud thing, but that's his job and he might have to do that. Where does that 18-year-old, 19 kid who 2 years ago was, going to a prom in high school, find that fortitude to do that? And what we talk about all the time is that It has nothing to do with hating what's out in front of you. It's 100% of loving what's behind you. And it's going to make you brave, and it's going to make you do your job, even though it's in that situation, a very difficult one. So I don't for a second pretend to think coaching volleyball or battling on the volleyball court has any thing to do with what happens in real life war. But I would say we like to try to take where we can, and that power of the unit is a big part of what we do in our culture. Now, when we get opportunities to flex that we can show that in games, those are the proudest moments that I have, whether we're in a Final Four and having to come back, whether we're in a regular game and have to make some moves, some guys coming off the bench, a guy's really sick, not playing, not feeling well, whatever, an injury. And through that adversity, we find a way to compete through it and have the power of the unit. Those are the most special moments about my coaching career here. Of course, a lot of those also go hand in hand with playing in national championships and big games, but that's really the overarching thing that I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm very appreciative of your time, Alan. Thank you so much, our coach, Alan. I wish you the best this season, and we will be fans watching on the TV when we can.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate it, and good chatting with you. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.